and welcome to another booktube video from me, Lauren, from Lauren and the Books. I hope you're all doing very well. Today we are doing the mid-year freakout tag. Itchy back. I have watched quite a few of these. Look at me tossing this around like it's my long ponytail, like I'm Ariana Grande or something. I've watched a good lot of these mid-year freakout tags, and I've been very much enjoying watching them as well. Simon's I loved, Lena's I loved. There's loads I loved. But yeah, I don't know if I've ever done this before. I normally mark the middle of the year. Really have got an itchy back there. I normally mark the middle of the year with my best books of the year so far, and that will be coming this week, featuring some of the books that I'm going to mention here. But yeah, I just thought this was a really great way to mark halfway through the year. Over halfway now, aren't we? We're in July. With some really great questions about the books that I've been reading this year. So let's kick off, shall we? Kick off or get right into it? The first question is the best book so far of 2020. Now, it's a bit cheaty, but I've actually got 2 to mention, plus maybe 3. So I'll mention the first one because I only finished it. I like to leave a bit of time in between like finishing a book and deciding whether or not it's one of my favourite books ever. And only recently, I'm talking about within the last sort of 3 days, I finished The Vanishing Half by Brit Bennett. So I really love this book and I really think it's going to be one of my favourites, but I just feel like it's too soon to tell. I just need a little bit of space between now and like to decide whether or not. This is definitely going to be featuring in my best books of the year so far, but is it one of my best, is it my favourite book of the year? Maybe, but there's 2 others. Both of which I've lent out, which is quite telling because once I've read a book that I've loved, I'm very keen for others to read it. So first of all is Don't Touch My Hair by Emma Dabry, which I've lent to my friend Emma. This is a non-fiction book about the history of black history, colonialisation, slavery, the fetishisation of black hair, the stigmatisation of black hair, and it's all, as I've been saying the word hair, so all of this history, all of this black history is told through black hair. So braids and just, it's just the most original, like, telling of history I've ever read, which I really loved. It was so educational and so giving with knowledge that I think about it all the time. And I'm actually, what I normally do when I've loved a book, I normally go back to it the following year and listen to it on audiobook, which I definitely will do since finishing this book. And actually, when I finished it, so this is another telling thing, when I finished it I gave it 4 stars, and I don't know why I gave it 4 stars, but this is just showing that how a 4-star book could become one of my favourite books of the year if I just keep thinking about it, which is exactly what I've done with this book. So it's been upgraded to a 5-star and upgraded to one of my favourite books of the year. And yeah, I thought it was amazing. I've watched a lot of interviews with Emma Dabry since. I think she's fantastic. Just, I urge you to read it. I urge you to. And not only does it just deliver with such great, like, educational tools to learn these things about black history, it's also got some sass in there and some really funny little one-liners and stuff. I think it's fantastic. I loved it. And actually, so Emma Dabry is an Irish-Nigerian author, and my other favourite book of the year is, which is also another answer for another question later on in this tag, is Grown Ups by Marion Keyes, who's also an Irish author. This book is a women's contemporary fiction book, which is not a book that not a genre that I thought I enjoyed, but I loved this book. It's a really big one. I've lent this to my cousin Laura at the moment. It's a really big book, like a big brick of a book, a sort of a family saga about a family and various people within that family. It's just got everything in it. It's just had everything thrown at it, and it's got such heart, and you really get to know these characters, and you go on a sort of like journey with them, leading up to a certain event, and you go on like holiday with them, and you go to I think you spend a Christmas with them. You hear all about their businesses, their friendships, their love affairs, and yeah, they're just some really great, well-written women in there. And it also addresses topics in there that are heavy, but are done in such a thorough and light way. I don't want that to sound like I'm sort of dumbing them down, but like one of the characters has an eating disorder, and it's dealt with so sensibly, and the word sensible makes it sound boring, but I don't mean boring, I mean just in a way that like just perfectly done. And yeah, I loved this book, and this is another one that I'll be going to the audiobook of next year. Right, the next question, question 2, is best sequel you've read in 2020. Haven't read many sequels in 2020, but one of my favourites, which I read earlier this year, is Heartstopper Volume 3 by Alice Oseman. This is a graphic novel. Here we go. We follow Charlie and Nick and their love story. Here they are on the front holding hands, being absolutely adorbs. In the first 2 volumes, it's sort of Charlie and Nick falling in love and negotiating that, and telling their parents that they are, and telling their parents that they're in a relationship and things like that. This is more sort of like celebration time of their relationship. All the telling of the parents has been done. Their friends all know, lovely stuff. And they go to Paris in this. And it was just really, really cute and really, really fun, and sort of like reminded me of like sixth form trips and giggling and all of that, like, and just having a lovely time. And yeah, I really love this book. It's got great representation, and yeah, I just think it's great. I really love this series. And actually, this is a library book. I got it up from the library. I must buy these books because I really think David would love them. So yeah, I'm going to get my hands on the series as well. Love this. Love it. Number 3 is new release you haven't read yet but want to. So this is a really new release, so new it's not even out, but I do have the book. So there's another question saying, what are you looking forward to in the latter half of the year? And I've got books for that. But this arrived in the week, and I'm so pumped and excited about it. It's The Pull of the Stars by Emma Donoghue. So Emma Donoghue is the author of Room, which is a super famous book that she's written, which I really enjoy, and also The Wonder, which I haven't read. And this is set in Dublin in 1918, and it says, in a country doubly ravaged by war and disease, nurse Julia Power works at an understaffed hospital in the city centre, where expectant mothers who have come down with an unfamiliar flu are quarantined together. Into Julia's stressful world step 2 outsiders, Dr. Kathleen Lynn on the run from the police, and a young volunteer helper, Bridie Sweeney. In the darkness and intensity of this tiny ward, over the course of 3 days, these women change each other's lives in unexpected ways. They lose patience to this baffling pandemic, but they also shepherd new life into a fearful world. With tireless tenderness and humanity, carers and mothers alike somehow do their impossible work. Sounds amazing, doesn't it? And I am so excited about it. I feel like it will be really weird to read a book that is set in a pandemic whilst we're in a pandemic, but I'm really excited about it, and I just think this front cover is just so beautiful. There is another beautiful book question later, and this almost won. It is just gorgeous. Look at these stars, and oh god, just the colour is just lovely. So as I said, the next question is the most anticipated read for the second half of the year, and I've actually got 2 again. Itchy eye. Beep, beep, beep. I've actually got 2. So the first one is the third in a series, and that's the Nevermore series by Jessica Townsend. And the third book of this, which actually was due out in August and has been put back. I think it might even have been due out in April originally, then it got put back to August, and now it's been put back to October. I'm willing to wait. I really enjoy the series, and that's Holloxpox, The Hunt for Morrigan Crow. So the Nevermore series is a series of books which follows Morrigan Crow, who was a cursed child and on her 13th birthday was destined to die, but a chap called Jupiter North turns up and asks her if she would like to become part of the Wondrous Society. And she has to take part in a series of challenges to get into the Wondrous Society. Spoiler, she does get into the Wondrous Society. And everyone in the Wondrous Society has a knack, like a special skill, and this skill is magical. Yeah, the second book is more about her trying to find out what her knack is and things like that. And then this third book with the title The Hunt for Morrigan Crow, Holloxpox, The Hunt for Morrigan Crow. I've no idea what that's going to be about, but I've just loved this series so much. I read the first 2 books, but I think having since read them, I've listened to the audiobook, and I think the audiobook is so well done. It's done by someone called Gemma. I want to say Gemma Whelan. I believe she was in Game of Thrones, and she just does a fantastic job. It's an amazing series, so fun, so much imagination's used in it. There's so Morrigan's bedroom, she lives in a hotel as well, which is another thing I like, books set in hotels. She lives in a hotel, and Morrigan's bedroom, when she first moves in, has just got a bed in it, and as the room gets to know her and sort of adapts to her personality and how she feels on different days, her bedroom changes. So sometimes if she wants comfiness and coziness, she'll have this massive big plush bed. Other nights she'll have a hammock, and yeah, it all changes, and like lights and things and books and like, oh, just amazing. Certain rooms and things within the, I mean, I could go on forever, I won't, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to the third in the series of this. And then the next book is a cookbook by Jamie Oliver. You all know I'm a massive Jamie Oliver fan. He is a chef in the UK. He brings out a book every year in time for sort of like the Christmas market. This book in particular is out on the 20th of August. They really bring, I say in time for Christmas, but I suppose like bringing out a book in summer is enough to get it hyped in time for Christmas. And who doesn't love a cookbook for Christmas? I love a cookbook for Christmas. And his new book is called 7 Ways, Easy Ideas for Every Day of the Week. I loved Jamie Oliver's cookbook he brought out last year because it was a vegetarian cookbook, the first vegetarian cookbook Jamie Oliver's ever done. Now, I've been a vegetarian for, I think it's either going to be 5 or 6 years in January, which is amazing. Well done, me. So it was so, like, how much I love Jamie Oliver and love his recipes, to be able to get a book where I can make everything in it because it's all vegetarian is just a delight. This book is not a vegetarian cookbook, but there will certainly be, what I admire and appreciate with Jamie Oliver's cookbooks is that he really does cover a lot of vegetarian options, or how to make a food vegetarian. So yeah, I always look forward to seeing Jamie Oliver's books out towards the end of summer, so very much looking forward to that. Question 5 is the biggest disappointment. Now, I've given this book away, which won't be a surprise. I'm going to take a sip of my tea and put it down. My biggest disappointment was The Glassblowers by Daphne du Maurier. Oh, Daphne du Maurier, Rebecca is like one of my favourite books of all time. Like, I've got 3 and that is one of them, and I love all of the other books. My Cousin Rachel is amazing. The Birds is one of my favourite short story collections ever, and this year for my Patreon book club in January, I think we read The Glassblowers, thinking it was going to be wonderful, as I found other Daphne du Maurier books. It was such a yawn fest. It was the biggest disappointment I've ever seen. Whenever I go into Daphne du Maurier books, I sort of pick them up like, just thinking this is going to be wonderful, because I've always had such a wonderful time reading her books. It was so boring. It read like a history textbook. Literally pages and pages of just like, of scanning, like of just not even, what I love about Daphne du Maurier is her description and setting a scene, and you would cover like the series of about 10 years on a double page. So many characters, so much like just not going into any detail. It's about French revolutionaries. On the face of it, it sounds really like it's going to be amazing. It's about a glass blowing community, and how if you marry into that community, they're your family now. And yeah, there's like the background of the French Revolutionary follows a set of brothers and sisters throughout that. It was just dire. I had a terrible time with it. I only finished it because it was for Patreon book club. It was 1 star. So disappointing to have an author that you love and adore, their book be a 1-star book. And I haven't read any Daphne du Maurier since, and I need to carefully select my next Daphne du Maurier book to remind myself how good she can be compared to that. The next question is, what was my biggest surprise of the year? So my biggest surprise of the year isn't particularly a book, although I will mention 2 books here, was that actually I've read and enjoyed 2 women's contemporary fiction books this year very much. One of them being Grown Ups by Marianne Keyes, which is one of my favourite books of the year, and the other being an audiobook I listened to called The Switch, yeah, by Beth O'Leary. Now, I only listened to that because it had Daisy Edgar-Jones, who played Marianne in the TV adaptation of Normal People, and I was like, oh, I really want to do more with her, so listen to the audiobook of that. And yeah, 2 women's contemporary fiction books I've really enjoyed this year, and I think what I've learned is that I've always sort of said, I hate that genre. Yeah, I've used the word hate. I hate that genre. But I think what I learned is that I need to be a bit more selective. That's Minnie trying to get out. Minnie, not yet. She's cheeky. I need to be a bit more maybe selective when I pick books from a women's contemporary fiction genre, but I know I can enjoy them. So, for instance, the Grown Ups I really loved. Now, there were aspects of The Switch that I did find problematic. What I do find in women's contemporary fiction books is that, don't be cheeky, is that, I'm gonna have to let her out because she's gonna pull the carpet up otherwise. Hold on. I've forgotten where I was, but I think I was saying I do find aspects of women's contemporary fiction problematic. Like, one of the main tropes in women's contemporary fiction is that everything will be okay if you get a man at the end of this book, and that was still the case in Switch. But yeah, I really enjoyed both of these books and thought they were really good. So yeah, my biggest surprise this year was that I've actually found 2 women's contemporary books that I've really enjoyed. And maybe I'll stop saying that I hate that genre, because there are obviously aspects of that genre that I enjoy. Question 7 is my favourite new author. Now, I've read 2 books from this author this year, both of which I've given 5 stars, both of which I've loved. My face when I talk about it is just lovely, and that's Bernardine Evaristo. I read Girl, Woman, Other earlier this year, loved it. It is a series of sort of like short stories about different women set in Britain throughout time. That book I've also lent out. My sister, Emma's got that at the moment as well. All of my favourite books I've lent out. Yeah, as you read it, you realise that their lives are interlinked and there's little aspects that come to it. I cannot wait to return to it, knowing what I know now with some of the stories having been interlinked and things. This is another one I'm going to listen to an audiobook next year. God, I'm going to have a long audiobook list next year. Loved that book. Then, most recently, have listened to Mr. Loverman on audiobook by Bernardine. I can't stop smiling when I talk about it. And that was just amazing. It was, I'd say it's a love story. It's a love story between a chap, an older gentleman who is from Antigua, living in the UK now, moved here, got married to his wife, also Antiguan. You're hearing about his love story with, his name is Barry, and you're hearing about his love story with his childhood friend Morris, who he is in love with. And they've had this romantic and sexual relationship since they were young, like, lads. And they fancy each other so much, but also, so that's sort of going on in the background, but you're also hearing from Barry's wife's point of view, hearing about their children, you're hearing about his grandchildren. It's just an amazing book that was filled with joy, and I don't feel like this is a spoiler saying it, but it has such a happy ending, and yeah, every time I think about the people in that book, or read or talk about it, I just get such a big smile on my face. I loved it. I cannot wait to read more that Bernardine Evaristo's done. She's got a couple more audiobooks that are coming out this month. I think they're coming out on like the 19th of July or something. I'm going to be reading those. Love them. If you are also a Bernardine Evaristo fan, let me know down below what your favourite book of hers has been. Because yeah, there's a little back catalogue of them now that we've got. Like, I love that when you find an author and then there's like a back catalogue of books to catch up on. So yeah, just loved Girl, Woman, Other and Mr. Loverman. Can't wait to read more. Cannot wait. Next one is my newest fictional crush. Now, this is a bit unusual, really, because I don't often get fictional crushes when reading. Don't often like find myself fancying people when I'm reading, which is unusual. So what I've picked, and I actually went back through all the books that I've read this year to see if there was anyone I could potentially force myself to fancy, and there wasn't. So what I've gone for is a fictional crush of mine who appeared last year when I was watching the TV programme of this, and my did that fictional crush appear, and actually I read this book this year, so yeah, it's a new fictional crush in terms of like I revisited the book this year, and that's Fleabag, The Scriptures, by Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Now, you all know how much I enjoyed Fleabag last year, and in particular, The Hot Priest. Now, this book, I got it for Valentine's Day off of David, which is so cute because look, this is a love story and I got it for Valentine's Day. Lovely stuff. And it is the scripts of Fleabag. So Fleabag was a programme, 2 series which follow the main character Fleabag negotiating sort of life, dating, the grief of having her mother die, her relationship with her sister, with her father, with her stepmother. And in the second series, the love interest is a hot priest played by Andrew Scott. He is unbelievable in that, and there is so many sexy shots of him. And yeah, when I started reading this, like to read the scripts and to hear like his voice as you're reading it was just a lovely treat. Quite often I'd just sit and read GIFs, look at GIFs about him and look at pictures of him as I was reading it. I only gave this 4 stars because I was hoping there'd be more bonus material. It's basically scriptures with like tiny little bits of bonus material, in particular like stuff about like going into slight detail about the characters, but there wasn't anything that I didn't really know. And yeah, I gave this 4 stars. I wanted to give it 5 stars because I love Fleabag so much. But yeah, it just didn't deliver on the sort of bonus content. But yeah, in terms of my fictional crush, it was very, very nice to revisit thoughts of that hot priest and Andrew Scott. Lovely it was. Newest favourite characters. So I've mentioned this book earlier. This is The Vanishing Half by Brit Bennett. This I think is going to be one of my favourite books of all time. At the moment it's just one of my favourite books of this year, but I need a bit of distance with it. But there's 2 characters in here in particular that I just couldn't get enough of. And so this book is about a set of twins who live in a place called Mallard in the US, and they are both black. They're twins. They're black, but they're very, very fair skinned, they run away, and one of them begins passing as white and then goes on to have the sort of all-American dream life she's always wanted, including a banker husband and a blonde daughter and things like that. The other twin marries a darker skinned man and has a dark skinned daughter. That daughter is called Jude. So as well as following these twins and their lives, you're also following the cousin, so the daughter of the twins, and Jude, the daughter of Desiree, is just such a dream babe in this. I loved her inquisitiveness. I loved her drive. She has a boyfriend who is trans, and is saving up for an operation to have his breasts removed, and her sort of drive in wanting to save money for him, but also knowing that she doesn't want him to, like, just all of her thoughts were sort of like such sensible, kind thoughts. She doesn't want him to see him to think that she's seeing him as a charity, so she's like, she wants to save up money because she wants him to be happy. And I loved so his name is Reese, and I loved the character of Jude and I loved Jude and Reese's relationship. And yeah, I just, 2 of my favourite characters ever. I loved them. I just thought they were so perfectly written and so wonderful. And yeah, I think this is going to be one of my favourite books of all time. I've just got a feeling. A book that made me cry. Now this was a reread, and the crying happened last Sunday when I finished it. It happens every time I read this book. I've read it about 3 or 4 times now, and that's Noughts and Crosses by Mallory Blackman. I'm not going to go, like, if you haven't read this or seen the TV series, there's a TV series of it now. I'm not going to tell you the moment that made me cry, but I will just say at the end of this book, every time shocks me to tears. Like how, because it's a YA book, and then something so unexpected to happen in a YA book for me happens at the end, and every time I'm just in tears, and it's just so much sadness and sort of hopelessness I feel at the end of this book. Now that's all I can say really, without telling you what happens in this book, but yeah, read it, guys, just read it. A book that made me happy. I've already mentioned this book, and I was trying to think of another book that had made me as happy as this book had made me, but it's a book that I've always mentioned called Mr. Loverman by Bernardine Evaristo. Now you would have seen my happy face when I was talking about it, but yeah, I just love that book. I loved the happiness it brought me, the characters. I love the fact there was a happy ending. I thought it was wonderful. I really, really loved it, and there's not much more to say on it apart from that, really, is there? Because I've gone into big time detail about that. Right, the most beautiful book I've got this year, and as I said, I've already mentioned The Pull of the Stars by Emma Donoghue, which only arrived like end of last week. I can't get over how beautiful this front cover is. I think it's that bloody teal green or something. In fact, it's got stars in it, lovely. But also, another book that I've recently hauled, I think this is just so beautiful. And it's a Christmas book, so early doors. But I had my eye on this book because it's not available in the UK yet. So I had my eye on this book for the US if I could get it somewhere reasonably cheap, and I did manage to, and that's Royal Holiday by Jasmine Guillory. I love green and pink together, and that's what's happening on this front cover. I love glitter, and that's also what's happening on this front cover. I love Christmas, and that's also what's happening on this front cover. So it just sort of delivers everything for me. Also, not only that, under the dust jacket, further green and pink, and this is more of the green and pink I'm talking about. I want to decorate my spare room these colours, so yeah, I just think this is so beautiful. So this is a Christmas book, a Christmas romance book about a woman who goes with her daughter to a royal house, like some sort of royal place in the UK. Her daughter is a photographer, I think. A stylist, sorry. She goes with her daughter, and then the mother, so this sounds so lovely as well, that it's a love story from like an older generation. The mother falls in love with one of the royal members of one of the staff of the members of the royal family. So yeah, I just think that sounds so cute. But yeah, I just love it. It's just so beautiful. I keep looking at it so much. like now, but no. The last question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? I didn't really know how to interpret this question, because there will be the books I need to read, but I don't know them yet. I'm part of 3 book clubs, my Patreon book club, my book club in real life, which is currently an online book club because of coronavirus, and also an online book club I run with my pals. So there will be books within that I'll need to read. There'll also be new releases that come out that I'll need to read, books that I want to review and things like that. But yeah, sitting here now, I couldn't tell you of the books that I need to read by the end of the year. So yeah. Many books. I've had a lovely time doing this tag. I really have. It's been really nice to sort of sit and chat and think about different aspects of the year's reading, like biggest disappointment and things like that. I don't often think about those things when I'm halfway through my reading year, because I'm often thinking about my favourite books of the year. So it's nice to sort of think about that and what books have got coming up that I want to read. Now, as I said, there will be a best books of the year video going up at some point this week. I have made the list is complete. I haven't filmed the video yet, but that will be going up. Hope you're all well, hope you're all having a lovely Sunday. I'm about to go and have a picnic, and I'll see you all again soon for another BookTube video. Goodbye.